Welcome to the Dream Journal. From the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz, the Dream Journal is a weekly show where we explore the power of nighttime dreams through conversations with dream experts and with you. In the words of Carl Jung, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. Today's music is called Paternalia. How to use dream incubation to connect to your soul. We'll be speaking with the founder of the fabulous Jung Platform, Machiel Klerk. I am your host, Catherine Bell of Experiential Dreamwork, and welcome to the Dream Journal. We are also a weekly podcast. Please subscribe, rate, and review, but most importantly, tell your friends. After all, the mission of this show is to get people talking about their dreams, and you can start by talking about that podcast you're listening to. You can find archives at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all those good places. Also at ksqd.org/the-dream-journal. Okay, my personal dream work. So we're coming back from the conference. What a conference it was. I am still buzzing. And one of the things that stayed with me the most were several talks I listened to about ancestral dreaming and making connections with our ancestors in our dreams. And I have been kind of resistant to that. You know, ancestors are not always something to look up to. But, you know, Elia Daniel encouraged us, just find the one ancestor. Where is the one that speaks to you? And I had what could be called a vision on the beach after the conference of my grandmother, my father's mother, Emma. And it really felt like a connection with ancestors. She was a frontier nurse, married to a farmer in Oklahoma and then in Montana. And she had 4 children, one of which died young. And in the vision, I found I could see the youngest, the one that died the youngest, their brother, Buddy, my father's brother, older brother, I guess, who died as a baby. I'm not actually sure. I have to get the family stories. And then the other siblings that have been passed on, and my father is the only remaining one of that generation. And so I felt like they were welcoming him, they were ready for him, they were greeting and supporting him. So ancestors, wonderful to connect. You know, we will, there's a wonderful statement that if we want to become ancestors, we can start by honoring our own ancestors. And so honor to Emma. I'd like to say hello to our guest, Machiel Klerk.
Thank you. It's great to be here, Catherine. I've been looking forward to it and love your musings on the ancestors.
Good. Well, we can definitely talk some more about the ancestors. It's good to have you on the show, Machiel. So Machiel Klerk is a psychotherapist who specializes in helping people identify their challenges and break old patterns to live a more balanced, creative life, fulfilling their divine purpose. He is the author of Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation, which is a Hay House publication. He guides readers on tapping into their inner wisdom through dreams, as well as he's also the founder of the Jung Platform, a website that offers online courses on psychological and spiritual perspectives, which he created as a result of a dream. I want to hear about all those dreams. You can find Machiel at machielklerk.com, MachielKlerk, MachielKlerk.com, and also at jungplatform.com. That's Jung, Jung, jungplatform.com. So, Machiel, welcome. I am excited to talk to you. I've been wanting to get you on the show for a while, since I find your platform is so inspiring and the work that you do. And maybe you could tell us a little bit about your journey with dreams. You particularly mentioned that founding the Jung Platform was a result of a dream. Where would you like to begin?
Well, there's multiple entry points, but
yes.
Maybe I'll start with the Jung Platform. the Jung Platform was born indeed out of a dream, and in the dream I see the house of Carl Jung at the lake of Zurich, and I'm floating above the lake, and he's building a platform attached to his yard. I see all of this, and then in the dream, on a certain moment, the platform and Jung disappear, and a voice behind me says, "Now you have to draw it identical to how it was." So I start drawing it, and then I wake up. And I take that as a dream to somewhat symbolically to suggest build a platform for psychologies or traditions that are like Jung, taking into account that there is another world, a world of dreams that is populated with figures that we can have a relationship to. And that was a vocational dream that put me on this path.
How long has it been since you founded the Jung Platform?
Well, it came in phases. So in 2009, I lived at that time in Utah, in Salt Lake, and I first started with a local nonprofit where we created events for the general audience on dreams and Jung and these types of traditions. And then several years later, I started the Jung Platform, and I've really been working on it the last 4 or 5 years full time.
Okay. Oh, wow. Is that recent? Because to me, it seems like this well-established, it's very rich, many hundreds of courses. I don't know the number, but every time I look, there's more and more courses that are offered there. Some of which are free, as I recall.
Yeah, that's right. We have blogs for free from really great authors. Because just like your mission, we want to help people connect to their dreams and to the other world and the helping forces that are available. And so we phase out the availability to the content.
Okay, that's fabulous. And so it's interesting that the logo itself, the JP Jung Platform, actually is like a platform. I had never really made that connection that you dreamed about a platform, and it is a platform for people who are doing Jung-inspired work. So that's wonderful to hear that connection. And so Carl Jung has obviously had a really big influence on you. What could you say about the influence that Carl Jung has had?
Well, in my early 20s, I was really in a dark place. I hadn't dealt well with the death of my father, who died when I was 10, and my family and my culture didn't know how to grieve. So I had just a traumatic freeze response from that, and had no future vision, didn't know what to do, started becoming depressed, smoked too much weed, which made me even more lethargic. And then by some fortunate chance, or you would probably say synchronicity, I stumbled upon the works of Jung. There was a book that one of my roommates had, and I started reading in it. And then at once I got completely fascinated and captured, and I didn't know what I was reading, so fascinating. And then my dreams started to come, and they provided a lifeline out of the dark pit, and I got reconnected with a sense of purpose, sense of the ancestors, where you talked about in the beginning, and then I noticed that dreams could be. There's so many dreams, from bit diagnostic dreams that provided an overview where we are in our lives, to dreams that point out where to go, or like that more vocational dream that I had. And so dreams have been fundamental in my life to provide some lifeline through this murky territory.
Yes, they can be very meaningful, full of meaningfulness. Yeah. So I want to go right to the topic here of dream incubation. And this is something that I will just say right off the bat that I've really struggled with this over the years. And then often when I try to incubate a dream, I get something that seems totally irrelevant. And so I've kind of got frustrated about it. And I wonder if you want to talk about, well, first of all, what is dream incubation and why it's difficult, or is it?
Yeah. No, it's I love that you've tried it, and I also interesting to hear the struggles. So maybe we can indeed talk about them.
That'd be great.
Dream incubation is a very old technique that comes back in most spiritual traditions around the world, and it is a technique in which we ask the dream a question before we go to bed, in order for us to have a helpful dream. So that is in a nutshell the issue. And so maybe if I'm stuck with a creative project, I could bring it to the dream, or I want to find a loved one, or whatever is relevant. And maybe some key points on when it works and it doesn't work. They will have at Harvard University. They've done some research around it, and what they noticed was that 2/3 of the participants that engaged in this research had a helpful dream, but 1/3 didn't. And so they asked themselves naturally the question, why could that be? And they noticed that people who asked a question around medical nature, or something that was emotionally really relevant, seem to have more helpful dreams than people who asked a bit of an abstract question, or a question that isn't relevant to their life path. If I ask what did my neighbor have for dinner yesterday, right?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Okay. But if I struggle with being nice to myself, maybe if I ask how can I be more loving to myself, usually there will be a helpful dream. But there are some other aspects, and I delve in my book also in depth in two things that are really important in this technique. One is asking a relevant question, formulating it well, and that needs to be something that is emotionally relevant, usually with a lot of pressure. People need to have done some thinking about it before they ask. And the other is engaged in a series of rituals.
Oh, rituals.
And with that, I really mean a series of activities that set an intention, that build up the expectation, that create a positive belief. Those are two factors that help.
So it's not enough, or not necessarily enough, for me to just lay there while I'm falling asleep and think about what I'd like to, a dream question. So can you give me an example of what kind of activities, what kind of rituals either you have found helpful or other people have found helpful?
Yeah. Well, basically, by both studying all these traditions throughout the world, whether that was in the Greek Asclepian healing tradition, or the African shamans, or in Hinduism or Buddhism, all these traditions have this method, or even is in Islam. And what they see is just that it doesn't matter so much what you do, but that you do a heart-based activity. So let's say I would want to be more loving to myself. Then maybe I can draw a heart with a question mark on it. And I meditate a little bit on it. And something symbolically relevant to the question that is important, done with some attention, almost communicating to the other end, hey, I am interested in this. I need some support. This would be a really good time to show up.
Interesting. You're really waking up some ideas in me about like the conversation between the conscious mind and the unconscious, and that there's some ways that they operate independently in certain ways. Of course, they very much rely on each other, but there's sort of this certainly arrogance of the conscious mind that this is all that's important. And there's also this kind of independence of the unconscious, that it's murmuring along, doing what it does. And how do we get those two to talk to each other? So maybe this incubation is one of those ways to bridge that.
Yeah, this is there appears in the unconscious to be an unconsciousness itself, that an awareness that is interested in helping and educating us on our journey. And we can engage with it. It's always there on standby, helping a little bit.
Yes.
But it even helps us more when we proactively reach out, ask it for help, talk to this phenomenon, and explain our situation. Usually it's very helpful to write down the question before you go to bed. And then the other side knows, oh, Machiel or Catherine or Johnny or Maria needs help, and it's interested in educating. So it's not like a genie in a bottle that just fixes at random all your problems, but it helps you on your journey through life to become more aware.
And most of the dreams that we have, of course, we don't even remember, and so they are helping little bit by bit. There's got to be some reason that we all dream. Humans dream, animals dream, octopuses dream. There's even recent evidence that spiders dream. So there's something really, really important about dreaming. And yet, what is it about bringing the dream to consciousness? That is something that, as far as we know, only humans do. What is that benefit there?
Well, in the dream, we get in touch with different. There are many different dreams, of course. A bit prognostic dreams, or diagnostic dreams, or dreams in which you meet ancestors, or many different dreams. But especially if we're stuck in life, we see that there is in the dream usually some state of consciousness or some energy that is different, and that can help break the current situation open.
Different from what? Different from the conscious view, or different? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So let's say I'm constantly stressed out about my work. Then it's not uncommon that in my dream there will be a person or a character that is calm, or that is very confident, or it has a different state of consciousness that would be beneficial for me. And then just like what I a bit know about your experiential technique is that you also then don't analyze it that much, but you feel into that energy. So you start feeling the confidence of that character, and then you start adding that to your stress, and then almost like an alchemical process, your own state of consciousness changes a little bit. So the unconscious or the dreams bring new states of consciousness to our daily consciousness that are helping us to adapt more adequately to our current situation.
So those new ideas you mentioned, like that calm person in a dream, might be thinking of my own dreams where I often have a lot of frantic energy, which I also have in waking life, that I might just like go run past that person. And so it comes down to like, how do we recognize the incubation? Like maybe it's a question of recognizing what the answer to the question is. Could it be kind of hidden in the dream?
Yeah, it's that's a great question, because I've noticed over the years that people do the whole process really well and then have a dream and say, gosh, I don't know, this dream doesn't really make sense. Right?
And it doesn't relate to my question. That's one I always get. But maybe it does, and I'm just not looking in the right place. What do you recommend about that?
Well, if you really did the process well and you really asked and you had a good question, I think the dream answers on some level. And sometimes it's just helpful to say thank you dream, and you feel a little bit into the dream, you feel the energy of the dream, and even allow that you don't know it, but you just tap into that state of consciousness that presents itself. And then I don't think that the unconscious stops conspiring to help you when the dream ends. So throughout the day, you might have a synchronicity, you might have a magical coincidence somewhere, an intuition that helps you answer the question.
Oh, so not even in the dream itself. You're talking about in waking life. There may be something.
Yeah. It doesn't stop, but I would always do something as a follow-up to the dream. I've had dreams in which I really didn't know, and I said, well, dream, I thank you for thinking so highly about me, but please dumb it down.
Yeah, really, I need some help here.
And the other thing is, not infrequent, the dream comes up with a suggestion that we didn't think about. So we are stuck in our life, ask for help, and have some idea of, it should be this or that. But the dream comes just from a different angle. And just sit with it in the dream, write it down, let it simmer, and then maybe there's an intuition or a thought or a feeling, or we just sit in that. We follow up in some form of a ritual. Maybe we hear a song and we listen to that song, and whatever it is, we'll just don't give up on that moment, even if you don't exactly know.
I love that. That's great encouragement. You can just give it a chance and see there's something there.
But it also has to do with ask a good question, because I've seen someone ask a question as, should I take this roommate into my house or not?
Right.
And then she couldn't understand the dream because she didn't know which part of the dream was saying yes or no.
Right.
And so ask one question at a time. Ask a simple question. Another point is usually go to the struggle and let the dream solve the struggle. There's a very old idea that only the wound heals. It's an alchemical saying. But it also means, let's say that I want to have a new relationship. Huge question. So if I ask the dream, gosh, where do I find my loved one? It's very unlikely that it says, oh, go to this this lecture and there he or she is.
Okay.
But yeah.
Go to the struggle. I have not heard that phrase before. So if but I agree, certainly this alchemical journey that we are on and that dreams really are crucible for, that it's becoming aware of the struggle and knowing and feeling what that struggle is that seems to create the change, and that we can pretend it doesn't exist for a very long time and it won't change.
That's
right.
that is very right. Yeah, that's where the simple observation comes from. Only the wound heals. So what is already well doesn't heal, and let's say we would want to have a relationship, then maybe we go to the to our last relationships and we see a pattern, and when we notice, gosh, I quickly feel abandoned. My partner abandons me. Maybe then bring in the sense of abandonment in the dream, so that the dream can heal that. Because otherwise your next relationship inevitably will have again that abandonment theme shining right back at you in it.
But now here's a question. So then if I take this sense of abandonment as like, how would I formulate that as a question for a dream?
Well, multiple ways. One is try to feel into a little bit that abandonment. Don't dive too deep into it that it becomes overwhelming. But just like a homeopathic dose, you take a little bit of the poison, inject it in your system, and then actually your own system responds to it by making the cure. And so you feel a little bit. You go back to that moment that this person abandoned me, or I felt abandoned, and I can feel the tightness in the chest and how my face tenses up, and then maybe feel that and write a question as please help me cure this or deal with this, and that would be the core of your question and ritual.
So you're bringing the feeling, really bringing the feeling to it.
Yeah, bring the feeling in.
Okay. Hey, I wonder if, Machiel, could you give us a couple examples of dream, or even one example of a dream incubation either you have or have had, or somebody, just to give us an idea of how this whole thing fits together, including the question.
Now, recently there was this man who had been divorced. Was a year later. He said to me, "I feel ready to go back into the dating life." And so I said, "Can I ask questions such as how can I find a loved one?" Sure. And but they said also think a little bit about it. What you really want to ask. So he thought about it, and he said, "Actually, what I really want to ask is." What is my biggest obstacle in dating? And he thought, because if I know the obstacle, and also he also went to the struggle. And if I find the biggest obstacle, I probably will make some headway. So he wrote a question down, did some rituals, made a drawing, spent some time. It's really important. Spend some time. Doesn't have to be hours, but just some heartfelt it's almost like you're gonna visit this wise old man or woman that can help you. So be respectful, and then he had the following dream. He says, I'm in a car driving through a tunnel, and in the distance I see some animal, and I'm a bit scared, but I drive further, and when I get closer I see it's a tiger. And when it's a beautiful tiger, but I slam on the brakes and I back out. That was the dream. And then one suggestion to work with the dream is to ask, what is happening, or what is the structure? So he said, well, I am moving through life, and then when I see something that is the tiger, that is really beautiful but scary, I slam on the brakes and I'm backing out. And then you read that answer to your dream as, what is my biggest obstacle?
Oh.
And he was like, oh yeah.
The backing out, is that the...
That is indeed. He was like, yeah, I recognize that. When I get too close and it becomes really beautiful and interesting, and I get really excited, I get scared. And when I get scared, my reflex is distancing, getting out, instead of other things. But that is his biggest obstacle, and so it's the beginning of a journey for him. So I also think some of these dream incubation questions can be really simple, like what is one type of food that would be good for me to eat? And very often people have an answer. But with big questions like finding a loved one, that's a journey. And I've seen that people too often want to have like a pill. Okay, this fixes it. But it's more like, oh, now you back out when you get too close. Start learning that sensation that you get really afraid. And so it's not the goal of not being afraid, but it's the goal of feeling that you're afraid, and then becoming really aware that you're afraid, and noticing that your reflexes move, and maybe sustain that you're afraid when you're in the present, and that you have the ability to engage instead of leave. And those are processes that take some time to change. Our habitual patterns become pretty rigid.
Yes, absolutely.
But and there's also the dreams can come in with energy that break open those rigid patterns. So it's dream energy that can help us that way. Sometimes even we don't completely need to understand it. Just what you also sometimes do with your dream work, feel into the dream.
Absolutely, that's the core of how I work with dreams, for sure. And that's a very powerful thing, and it could be a case where then he would start to recognize moments when he's backing out, like, oh, I'm backing up, because who would want to go toward a tiger? Like, am I willing to be slayed?
Right.
For the beauty.
But it also gives a good indication. Therefore, I love dreams so much. Is, oh, so you're really afraid, because it is like meeting a tiger, and I can imagine. Oh, if I meet a tiger, I'm also out. And so that is the kind of fear this person has. So it's not like, hey, don't worry, it's all good, right?
No, these defenses are valuable. They're things that we learned along the way, but maybe it's time to drop them. But they were valuable, they have been valuable, may continue to be valuable, but maybe not always.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm recognizing that. So this is Machiel Klerk, and you are listening to The Dream Journal. My name is Catherine Bell, and our topic today is dream incubation, and we're going to be right back talking about the purpose of dreams and also what to understand about nightmares. We all are very curious about nightmares. Okay, welcome back to the Dream Journal. Next week, we will have on again the wonderful Scott Mason. And we talked a lot about archetypes and mythology. And this time, we'll be talking more about psychedelics, which is one of his other hats. So tune in for that. I also want to let folks know that I have a new round of Experiencing Your Dreams workshops, which are going to be starting Monday, July 10. Can you believe it's already July? Monday, July 10. The topic this time will be ancestors and reincarnation. Go with what's hot, right? Clues to your heritage in your dreams. So you can contact me at the station here or through my webpage if you'd like to be part of these ongoing workshops. They're interactive Zoom workshops, Mondays, 3 to 4:30 Pacific time. Ancestors and Reincarnation. My email is Catherine@ksqd.org, KATHERINE@ksqd.org. So I am indeed Catherine Bell, and my guest is Machiel Klerk. We're talking about dream incubation and so much more. So, Machiel, I have a question about how do you know when to trust the dream? Like, do dreams sometimes trick us, or what? What does that? Or maybe is it our misunderstanding, or what does that mean? How do we know when to trust the dream?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that because there's so many different variations of dreams, like we could have a dream that when we're stressed and we're running through the school building to our classroom for the test, and we can't find the building, and it's getting later, and then it begs the question how to understand the dream. Does that really mean that we're going to miss the test? Or is it a reflection of our fear that we will miss the test?
Right.
And I think that the dreams are a part of nature, and that nature is not really in itself deceiving, but it reflects. But there are different dreams. So some dreams reflect where we are. Some dreams suggest where we should go. Mm-hmm. So it's also... It's more our interpretation and our relationship with the dream than that dreams are out there to trick us.
Okay, so
I don't think they tell us go to Atlanta, and then we go to Atlanta, and then they'll go like, trick me.
But maybe we misunderstand. Like maybe the Atlanta refers to, how we felt with the time we lived there or something, and it's not really about the literal city. So exactly. Is it more a question of misunderstanding the dream rather than that the dream is?
Yeah, and or even in the Atlanta metaphor, it brings us to Atlanta, so that we meet this person, and then we learn, but actually I should be in Chicago. But I would never have been in Chicago if I hadn't gone to Atlanta, met this person, got this insight, and then ended up somewhere else.
Okay. There's something about the language. We were talking about the unconscious and the conscious, and how they are often have different agendas. They seem to be on different pages, and sometimes maybe they speak different languages. I'm thinking especially this question around incubation, like the incubation, like we're asking for something particular, and there's like a lot of opportunity for misunderstanding to what the answers are.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've seen that people too often want a real literal prescription. What should I do? And then have the 3-step plan. And it appears that the unconscious tries to help us to become more aware. So it maybe gives us insight in how we can best make a decision in a situation, or how we can think better about whatever our challenge is, how we can learn to speak up. Mm-hmm. It won't speak up for us, but it will give us the tools or the energy so that we can embody it and then speak up ourselves.
Right, because the unconscious is not in the world in many ways. I'm wondering if this, are we getting in the territory of the soul? Like the title of your book, which I'll say right here, Dream Guidance, Connecting to the Soul Through Dream Incubation. What do you mean by the soul, and how does incubation help us connect to that? Yeah,
I think that there is a phenomenon in out there in us that is very aware and very creative, and that can in illness that cures our body, and that makes the plant grow and the rose blossom. That force goes by different names, and I for the ease I call it the soul.
So again, the force that causes behind growth or the blooming.
The force that maybe even is that causes the blooming is the blooming, and that makes our heart beat, and the whole system function, and generates thoughts and intuitions, and it is aware. You can see it in lucid dreams or in this dream that it knows things about us that we don't know. Like the man who asked about what is my biggest obstacle, and got and it laid out what its core issue at that moment was. And in dreams you can when you become lucid in dreams you can say, is there anyone with a message for me, or something to that extent, and then remarkable responses happen, and that force. And some people would call it the universe, or Jungian psychology calls it the self with a capital S, or the daimon in Greek times, or the larger awareness. And I think we can contact that in many ways, just by prayer or talking, or through our intuition, but at night in our dreams as well.
So it seems the dreams are closer to that. Maybe they're kind of an interface even that's putting us in connection with that.
Yeah, I like that. That we have. Yeah.
And so that this incubation, which is really a direct conversation between the conscious self and the unconscious self, is like a attempt to bridge that gap. I've often felt that dream work itself, where I take a dream, which is this unconscious thing, and explore it with my conscious mind, that's building some kind of a bridge.
I believe that too. And I think in the dream itself, there are states of consciousness, like the car that drives in a certain way, the angry cab driver, the happy postman. All these states of consciousness take on a form and shape, and we can engage with these different states of consciousness. And in my experience, some of these states of consciousness are more conscious than us.
I'll say more about that. Like what, for example?
Yeah, I remember, for example, when I was in a dream and I became lucid, aware that I was in a dream, and then I yelled out, "Is there anyone with a message for me?" And my youth hero, Johan Cruyff, a soccer player, came flying to me and said, "Come, I'm going to show you something." And I was like, "No, okay." So we were flying. And then from the air, I saw two streets, a crossing. And he said, "I'm going to teach you how to cross this crossing." And in the dream, I was like, okay. And so he said, "You just need to go. And when you get scared, you stop. If you think traffic is coming, you stop. But you don't go back. And then when you're not scared again, you go further. And if you get scared again, you stop. But you don't go back. And then if you do that long enough, you get to the other side." And I was like, okay. And when I woke up, I reflected on it, and I thought, I'm at a crossing in my life. I was working at a clinic as a psychotherapist, and I wanted to go to private practice, but I was afraid that, will it work? Will I have money enough? Will people like my style of work? So I had some trepidation, and this dream just showed me, go, and just don't go back. It's okay to be afraid, but then you just stop, and then you go on. And so I did that, and anytime I got afraid, I was like, okay, I'll give myself I pace it a little bit, but I definitely don't return back to the false security of a fixed job. And it worked out actually really well to have my own private practice.
Right, and yet with your conscious mind, you might have thought, if I'm afraid, I should go back to the old way.
Yeah, and And that is what I mean with there was someone in the dream that was really conscious about the situation, could it explain it. It's like meeting in a fairy tale the old wise man or woman who gives you some advice, and then you can continue the journey.
Love those wise characters that come in our dreams. For me now, that's Emma, my grandmother Emma.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about nightmares. Like, what is it that you know about nightmares? Like, why would why would our soul torture us? Like, why can't you be more gentle or tell us something that we can understand? Or what is it that you understand about nightmares?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I've come to see over the years, and not only I, a lot of people have seen that, is that nightmares are of course anxiety dreams.
Yeah.
They're dreams with extreme anxiety that wake you up often.
Yep.
And I think that is the key element. It tries to awaken us to a certain situation. And so internally, it is almost like our psychological immune system has fever. So it is it is a form of illness, and if you have it's a form of illness. I don't want to dramatize it too much. If you have once in a while a nightmare, because we all have, but that you have also once in a while fever.
Yeah.
And it indicates usually too much anxiety. And sometimes it's not enough anxiety, but almost always it is, I'm overly stressed, or I had trauma and I continue to have traumatic dreams. And we're not dealing well with the content that is stressing us out, whether that is a traumatic event, or it is overly being stressed, or something to that extent, that we can relate differently to the fear, and usually what the research even shows is just writing down a nightmare, people started having fewer nightmares. Just somehow acknowledging, I have I'm overly stressed, and I try to drive and I can't get to the steering wheel, and or I'm embarrassing myself in public, or something to that extent. It means we're overly afraid, and by engaging with the dream content, and there's a whole ways of doing that, but that can change. So they're helpful in a way, if we would understand it, is they try to help us relate differently to the fear, and we haven't found the right relationship yet. And usually only when we find the right relationship, the dreams disappear.
Okay, so it's interesting to start with the idea that they're helpful and they're in fact trying to wake us up, that there's something they're trying to wake us up in our waking life. There's something and yet there's many things. I'm thinking like the cases of PTSD, where people know the trauma, they know what it is. It's not like they don't know. Like they're asleep.
No, they do know, and they usually also know. I'm overly stressed, and therefore I'm feeling that that I'm failing for my exam or whatever. But then they haven't found yet the right relationship to the trauma.
I see.
I've once worked with a man who came back from the war and had seen horrible things in the war, and had almost flashback dreams that repeated the same experience years later.
Yeah.
And the closer the trauma dream is to the real event, the less it has been digested by the system, the psychological system. And so with this man, we just went back. We listened to the dream. We went back in the dream. Can do that by just feel, what you probably also do, feeling into it, and you're back in the dream, and then focusing on on elements in the dream that aren't directly related to the trauma. So let's say you see a bomb explode, then you just move in the dream to the tree on the side that you see.
Oh, okay.
And by engaging with aspects of the dream itself starts digesting itself. It's almost like you have a wound and you start cleaning it up. The wound itself will start to heal for you. You don't need to do that, but you do need to engage with it because otherwise that wound continues to fester. And that's with these trauma dreams too.
Right.
So the good news is it's curable, but it does take a little bit of work to engage with it, and but then you don't have to have nightmares for the rest of your life.
Right. Well, that's something that's really important for people to know, because I know that people who have a lot of nightmares sometimes think, well, that's just how it is and there's nothing that can be done about it. But it's so not true. There's been a lot of research done lately about how to help with nightmares, which does not involve taking a pill to make them go away, because it's just kicking the can down the road. But how do we actually work with the dreams and learn to trust them, even if they're scary?
Yeah.
And I would think incubation would be one good way of working with nightmares. Have you done that with folks before? Of how what's been your experience with that?
Well, there's different ways of doing that, but one is, for example, very simple. Ask the dream, how can I have less nightmares? And then see what the activity is that the dream does. And even if you don't understand the activity, just mimic it. Just first of all, go back in the dream, feel the whole activity, and then just do something like it, and then see what happens, because the engagement with the unconscious or the soul does trigger the healing response.
Can you give me an example? I can't quite picture what you mean to do something like in the dream.
Let's say you dream that you're preparing a dinner for friends. Yeah. Then you just invite some friends and prepare a dinner. Or if you make if they don't have the time for inviting, you just make a dinner and imagine that this is for you and your spirit support, or your soul and the trauma, and that you then have some bit of a conscious way of eating it. Yeah. And then you just follow a bit the theme of the dream.
Well, you really hit on something there. I had an experience of a dream of a hobo, a homeless person, and he was hungry, and in my waking life I just made him a dinner. I made myself a dinner. I was living alone, but I imagined him there, and I just served what I thought he would really like, and it was a really beautiful moment of like feeding a part of me. I'm going to cry right now. Feeding a part of me that even that was 15 years ago, was really hungry and didn't know how to connect with that, but just from the gesture of the dream of the dinner.
Beautiful, yes. And I think also what you touch upon there is we don't always need to understand the dream. The engagement with the dream. Oh, there's a homeless person, or I'm going to engage with that figure in me that is homeless, that is hungry. I don't know exactly how to fix it, but I'm going to just make a dinner. And what we see, just like with wounds that we have, we don't need to exactly know how to heal that wound on our arm.
No.
We just must not ignore that we have it. Try to clean it up a little bit. Maybe give it some air, something to that extent. And then the response from either the body or the unconscious or the soul comes, that it starts helping us. But it's also a process. So just like your homeless person with one feeding isn't completely integrated and never has hunger again. Right. But you at least know, hey, it's there. He's there. I'm engaging, and then it feels engaged.
Yeah, there's a connection, and there's
yeah.
Oh, this is wonderful, Machiel Klerk. So I wonder, in the last few minutes of the show, if you'd like to talk a little bit about the Jung Platform and what are some of your favorite programs. What are you, what's coming up, and you know, that so people can tune in, and just what are you most excited about going forward?
Well, now that we talk about dreams have been a big love of mine. So we have several dream programs. We've created Dream Summits, which are great programs with 12 different teachers that all have slightly different perspectives on dreams. We have we have a program on how to work with nightmares, a very simple 3 class program on working with nightmares. There's tons of free blogs as well, and so we have that. We have African shamanism with basic Jungian concepts like individuation and the shadow work. That's a big one. And currently, I always like forms of divination. So just like dream guidance is a form of contacting the oracle within. I also enjoy the tarot and the I Ching. So we have a great program on the tarot, and I'm building a program on how to work with the I Ching, the old wisdom book from the East. And
now, most of these are pre-recorded, or are there also some live interactive classes as well?
Yeah, we have both. But once it has been live, it becomes on demand.
Yeah, right.
And we have a course, Die Wise, with Stephen Jenkinson about how to die. And
well, that's one of the things I love about Jung Platform is the quality of the teachers that you have. Robbie Bosnack, I know, is a big one. What are some of your other favorite teachers?
Yeah, Robert Bosnack is great. I like Stephen Eisenstadt in the Dreams. We have beautiful programs with him, Robert Romanician. But then we have Robert Wagner, who was also at the ISD usually, on lucid dreaming and how to do it and what you can do in the dream. And we have also interviews with Robert Moss and Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche from the Tibetan perspective on dreams.
Wonderful.
So,
Machiel, I wonder if you, do you think the best way to contact you are through jungplatform.com? You also have your own page, machielklerk.com, MachielKlerk.com. I wonder if you have any final thoughts or encouragements for the listeners.
You cannot do much wrong with asking your dreams a question. It cannot work, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I want to encourage people just to have fun, play with it. You've listened today to it. Maybe you're skeptical, and then you go to your dream and say, "Gosh, I heard this guy rant and rave about this," and I don't know if it's true or not dream, but I would like to test.
Right.
And I would love to. And what very often works is things like, I would love to know one thing I can do to love myself more deeply.
Ah, yes.
And then your own psyche would love to help you be a more loving person, because it's good for you and your environment.
Wonderful.
So I just want to encourage people, play with it, write down your question. If it doesn't work immediately, continue to puzzle, because the other side is interested in helping and educating. And we all have to figure out a little bit our own relationship with it.
Yep.
But just play, enjoy, experiment.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. This has really been a delight, Machiel.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to talk to a fellow dreamer.
Yes, absolutely. We have that passion in common for sure. All right, well, take care, and maybe we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Till the paths cross again.
Indeed, that's right. Thanks for listening. The Dream Journal is produced at the studios of KSQD in Santa Cruz and is live every Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific. KSQD.org. Podcasts are released on the Monday after the show. Keeps us growing when you subscribe, rate, and review. I am Catherine Bell. Find out about my dream coaching practice at experientialdreamwork.com. Email me at Catherine@ksqd.org. That's KATHERINE@ksqd.org. You can follow Experiential Dreamwork on Facebook and Instagram to find out about upcoming shows. I'd like to thank Rick Kleffel, engineer and music creator, Tony Rosimano, Eva Milady. Intro music is Water Over Stones, and this outro music is Everything, both by Mood Science. Tomorrow morning when you wake up, take a minute to write down your dream and bring it to the next Dream Journal.